Today, I'm speaking with technology leaders about the Apple Vision Pro, major artificial intelligence news, robot cafe baristas, and more. We'll be discussing virtual reality, the UK Prime Minister, the future of job interviews, and beyond. And make sure that you stick around until the end of this podcast to witness one of the craziest AI technologies that you have ever seen. Welcome back to the podcast.
The Alfie Whattam podcast.
First up, we've got the Apple Vision Pro headset. We'll show a quick clip on the screen for those watching on video. So this is a mixed reality headset recently announced and available for purchase early 2024. It's Apple's first major product launch since the watch back in 2015. It uses no controllers. It uses eye tracking. It's got hand tracking and Siri for voice. You can use it for work, for movies, for gaming, for FaceTime, for pictures and more. It's got more pixels than a 4K TV, built-in 3D cameras, and the best spatial audio yet. It's VR, it's AR, it's XR, and it's a new term that they are defining as spatial computing. That's the Apple Vision Pro. Tim Cook has got to pay me for that wonderful ad. That was incredible. All right, let's get your thoughts, chaps. Nick, why don't you kick us off? When you see the Apple Vision Pro, what do you think?
Well, I think they're a little bit behind the ball. Okay. I think they're a little bit behind. I think if you look at what Meta back in 2021, I think, let me go back. Let me tell you what I think about Apple. The situation with Apple is, I think, when the pandemic came down, they were busily trying to catch up on this.
Okay.
And I think this is something that they've tried to work on. I think they've got a better version than everybody else, but I think that what they've created is something which I think they're a little bit behind the times. I love the technology. I love what it does. I was really impressed by what it does. Trouble is, like a lot of Apple products, I think it's looking for it's almost like technology looking for an answer.
Okay.
And that slightly bothered me. I also think, and so it's a little bit like the Apple Watch. If you think about the Apple Watch when that came out, it's really that was supposed to be an augment the Apple iPhone.
Sure, yeah, an extension of it.
Yeah, it hasn't really become that, has it? It's become a fitness gadget.
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't really use mine for fitness. I use it for basically setting alarms for when I've got to walk my dog and changing the song on Spotify through Alexa. So I use it for that, which I could do on my phone.
Yeah.
So it is, not replacing the phone at all, but it's more useful because I can do it quickly. I don't know if it's worth the money of doing that, but for me, it's cool.
Absolutely. No, I get it. I kind of use the same thing as well. I use it on the Spotify. Just next track, please. I've heard this one before. Yeah, so very much. So that kind of something which set in my mind when I looked at this. The other thing is that I was really interested when I thought about this to see that Meta, if you think about 2021, they obviously changed their name from Facebook to Meta.
Yeah.
And they put a lot of money into this whole metaverse industry.
Sure.
And it's interesting, the last words that Zuck and the gang came out with was they're now talking, it's not so at the front, is it, anymore? And now they're talking about subjects such as OpenAI.
Yeah.
And then I looked at Microsoft, and Microsoft were right up there, and they've made a load of acquisitions. I think Altspace,
Altspace is
VR.
Platform, their competitor of Horizon Worlds.
Yeah.
It's okay, but it's a bit similar problems to Horizon Worlds. It's quite blocky, and the tech is like The Sims or something.
But they've closed that down as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you look at, or it's been shuttered, shall we say, I think the term is, and you look at this and you say, where are these other tech companies moving to? And they're moving towards AI.
Yeah.
And it made me wonder, and I just thought, is this for once Apple being a little bit behind the ball in terms of where they should be with their technology? Yeah, look, don't get me wrong, it looks great. I like the idea that you can just touch your forefinger and your thumb and it acts like a click of a mouse.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Very, very good. Great technology. But I wonder if it's a little bit too late.
Well, you're right that Meta beat them to the punch because they obviously have had the Quest and the Quest 2, and the Quest 3 was released the same week. It's nowhere near as expensive, and the tech reflects that, but they're obviously going for a different type of consumer. So you're right, Meta has beaten them to the punch, but Apple never is first. They always see what happens, and then they create their version with their fashion, their design, and their appeal on top. So what about your perspective, Graham? Would you agree, disagree when you see the Apple Vision Pro, what are your initial impressions?
Yeah, I think very, very similar, really. As a piece of technology, looks absolutely amazing. What they're able to do with that technology and the software that's also with that looks absolutely fantastic. But why? I think that's the biggest question. Like, what problem is it solving? How would you bring it into your everyday life? What enhancement would you get from having one of these? Don't get me wrong, I'd love to have it.
Yep.
I'd love to have a go on it and try it, but I can't see me using it for work, even entertainment. Like, it seems a little bit of a gimmick of a gadget with a very high price on it at the moment.
Yeah.
But I think as we look forward, this could be a stepping stone to other things. I thought it was an interesting point there about where's it heading, and the other big technology companies have perhaps taken a different direction. So it'd be interesting to see whether they come back or whether Apple also go, you know what, we should be in that AI space as well. Yeah.
I mean, the AI is clearly the biggest technological transformation, certainly probably in ever. It's in terms of its potential and what's happened in the past year. We couldn't even imagined a year a bit beforehand with GPT and DALL-E and AI generated video and some other things that we'll talk about later on in this episode as well. But Meta have, through my recruitment agency, we've been tracking their job ads posted, and the use of the keyword AI is now more frequent than the use of the keyword metaverse. So you are right that they are starting to try and transition and perhaps not put all their eggs in that one basket. The metaverse term has almost, unfortunately, become a little bit of a joke, which is why Apple didn't even use it. They didn't even use the word virtual reality, mixed reality. They use the word spatial computing, a brand new idea that they're trying to pioneer, which they've got spatial audio. So I understand the shift, but I guess what they're trying to build is a computer, not a gaming gadget. So it's a little bit different. One thing that is different about this is that it has no controllers. I use my Oculus from time to time, and I go through phases where I really into it, and then I just kind of put it away for 3 months. And I've been involved in trying out VR tech for a decade now, of everything from the Google Cardboard to this, right? So with all VR platforms, there was always controllers that you had to hold. Meta had been building out some hand tracking, which you could use on the Oculus, but it was pretty terrible. I mean, it was really, really slow, and there was no point doing it really at the end of the day. I'm sure it will get better and better. Apple seemed to have just come out the gate with really, really good hand tracking, and my friends that have tried out the headset say that it's really natural. You just sit there, you just tap your fingers. You don't have to hold it up to the screen like you do with the Oculus. You can just tap. You look where you want to see it. The eye tracking will sense where you're looking. You tap, and it will go. You look in the search bar, and you just talk, and it will instantly start filling in the criteria. So their controller is eyes. Their controller is hands. Their controller is voice. It's not these plastic things that you're holding, which have AA batteries in. Okay, what do you think about the no controller angle? Graham, we'll start with yourself.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to the execution for me. If it works, it's going to be brilliant. I remember playing on the Kinect on the Xbox, and you think you're doing a move and it's not picking it up, and it's so frustrating. So I think if they've nailed it, it's going to be brilliant, because that is going to be the most natural way of interacting with technology. So I really hope they've got that spot on.
Yeah, the Kinect, that was like the successor to the Wii in some respects, from the strap to just meant to be. Yeah, but it didn't really work, did it? It wasn't really didn't really catch on.
Yeah.
What about yourself, Nick? What do you think of the no controllers aspect?
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Everything I've read and heard, I haven't seen myself or used it myself, but everything I've read and heard, if correct, because what I've read is it says it doesn't take very long for you to become familiar with it.
Yeah, so it's meant to be instant.
It is. It's almost like a couple of tries. The more it's the fact that you're looking for something to click, rather than do it with your fingers. And apparently, it's the same with the eyes as well. I do wonder about what your eyes are going to be like by the end of it, though. I should imagine opticians might make a few quid, actually, Alfie, as well.
Because, the thing is, we talk about how you shouldn't watch TV for too long because it would damage your eyes, and then we went to phones, and now it's, literally right there. So, there hasn't been a long enough time to do a proper study on this. So, my eyes are wrecked because I've been looking at screens every day, all day, forever, right? What's it going to be like for little kids when they're just living in VR, and that's what they have?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you completely there. I think where it's going to end up, I think it's a great stepping stone for eventually being a pair of glasses.
Yeah, I
think that's what it really is, and it's the first move towards it. I guess my problem with this is I'm always looking for a business application for it to resolve. And at the point, I don't really think with Microsoft coming out with 3D avatars, I don't really see it filling that gap just yet. And I think I think there's a few more evolutions yet before we get to the version which will really, all of a sudden there'll be something, wow, yeah, this is what it was made for.
That is the holy grail. That is what every major tech company wants. They want a pair of glasses, which they want the Google Glass. They want your notifications popping up. They want the arrow showing your maps. They want you to talk to it and you can hear back through vibrations on the stem. That is the dream, right? We're not there yet just because of the tech. It's just not enough. And the thing is, I don't think we'll ever get to a pair of glasses like this. And this idea is from Palmer Luckey, the actual creator of Oculus, which then obviously became Meta really when they acquired it. And his view is that people won't want just a pair of glasses. They'll want something a little bit chunkier, because with a pair of glasses, you'll be quite limited in terms of what you can do. But if you just make it a little bit bigger, like a little bit more on the stems and stuff, you'll be able to pack a lot more into it, and then it won't just be like AR, it will actually be VR as well. So, but the concept of what you're talking about, getting it smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. The Quest 3 is 40% thinner than the Quest 2. Quest 2 is pretty chunky, but 40% that's quite a lot. And the Apple one is pretty thin. I mean, what happens like in 5 years when it's a tenth of that chunkiness?
Well, the Apple one's good because it doesn't have all the batteries in the screen itself.
That's why it's so thin.
Yeah. So you haven't got all that weight on your head.
Yeah.
But like I say, I think the holy grail, as you say, quite rightly, is to get to glasses.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think one of the interesting things about that sort of full headset versus glasses piece, like what Apple have managed to do with the full headset, is you can go full immersive. So you can block everything out. Whereas I think if you've got glasses, you've still got light coming in, and you're very much in that augmented reality space rather than the complete immersive. And I don't know whether that's part of the vision or the compromise they've got now, or they're hedging the bets with a bit of both.
Yeah.
But I think that's a really interesting view at the moment. And I certainly agree with you there, Alfie, that the future is that glasses. I think that is the holy grail. I mean, I'd go even smaller than glasses and be contact lenses. I think completely invisible tech is really the ultimate destination.
If that ever becomes like possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that would obviously be the dream. Or just a Neuralink. I mean that would be like the best way, right? Hey, this podcast is brought to you by WeLoveAlpha.com. If you're looking to grow and hire and scale your software engineering team in the UK, then go to WeLoveAlpha.com to hire the best software developers on the market. Everything across Java to C# to PHP to Python to React and Angular and mobile and more. Go to WeLoveAlpha.com to hire the best software engineers in the UK now. The killer app that they're talking about on this is the FaceTime fake hologram. So this is something that Meta has nowhere near touched. But with the Apple Vision Pro, you can turn it around and the cameras will look at your face and create a fake 3D hologram of you. So if you then put it back on and you're in a FaceTime call with somebody, they will see you smiling, laughing, playing around, but it's not you. It's a fake hologram version of you. When I do occasional calls on the Oculus in like Horizon workrooms, it's like a cartoon character that you're speaking to, which people just aren't going to use because like you can't do anything serious like a business meeting and your boss is like got green skin, and imagine getting fired in VR and like by like a it's just like it wouldn't work. But if it looks real, if it looks like a hologram version of you, and if that just becomes the norm, maybe they're onto something there. I mean, it's quite different to. It's the first time you'll be having a video call with a fake version of somebody, but it is them. But it's just a AI reconstruction of them. What are your thoughts on the fake FaceTime hologram killer app? What's your take, Graham?
I mean, I think I'd probably say why not get the real you on a real camera? Like, why would you want to?
Okay,
so a hologram
you
version.
don't think VR or spatial computing video calls will catch on? You think it'll be more just like the regular way it is right now?
I think so. Yeah, I think. I mean, it's surprised myself actually how we've very much switched to video calls. I think we had the technology for a long time, and I was one of those people who really preferred voice only. But now there is video. Really enjoy that as a format, and it feels a bit odd just to do voice. I don't really get the hologram sort of version. I think, you know, we've all got faces, we've got cameras. Let's carry on with that.
Sure. Okay. What's your take, Nick?
I suppose my point is, I'm looking at this from a culture perspective, and I don't think that you build a culture with a hologram. And I think that in the workplace, I mean, it's hard enough to build a culture when you're doing it over Zoom or Teams. So I'm quite an advocate of getting into the office more, because I think for young people especially, it's how you learn. You learn by learning off other people. People don't actually a lot of people don't realise that, but you do learn an awful lot from working with experienced people. You know, if you're pair programming or something like that. So I'm a strong advocate of that anyway. So the sort of whole point of having this sort of virtual reality version of me doesn't appeal, because I'd rather do it in person. Yep. But maybe that says more about me than it does about anything else. And I kind of think it's more about getting the culture of your organisation and what you want to achieve across. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I try and do everything that I can in person. Failing that, video call, failing that, a phone call, and text is like a last resort. Most of the time when like my team or someone texts me, my response is I call them, and then if they don't answer, I'll just text back, when can you speak?
Yeah.
So just replying over messages, it's just like not a really efficient way. Tone's lost, you know.
It's draining, isn't it? And you don't get them, as you say, you don't get the gravitas of the point you're trying to make.
You can't build a relationship over messaging.
Absolutely can't, no.
Yeah, you do that over beers and you know, food and speaking with people.
Absolutely.
Well, one thing that the headset's got, which Meta don't have, and I'm skeptical if this will be a recurring thing. Like, this is the Apple Vision Pro, okay, and it's designed for developers really at $3,500. They'll buy it. They're only expecting to sell like 200,000 of these, which is like nothing compared to the tens of millions of Quests that were sold. Especially at like Christmas time, but they're going to sell, you know, a small number of these. Devs will build apps, and then they'll come out with probably what I would guess is just the Apple Vision, like the Apple Vision Pro, Apple Vision. Apple Vision will be like half the price, and I don't think Apple Vision will have this feature because it seems like really expensive. But anyway, the Apple Vision Pro has something called Eyesight. And Eyesight is on the front, and you saw that on the revealing trailer. You can actually see the eyes of the person. Now you can't see the eyes. It's once again, it's a screen. It's fake, but it's good because when you're walking up to somebody in VR at the moment and you try and speak to them, they got to take off the headset and they got to pause the game and blah blah blah. With this, what you will see when wearing the headset is they will just come into the view. And you'll see them because it's more mixed reality. So, you know, I'll be, you know, watching a movie and it will kind of blur a little bit, and then Graham will pop up, "Hi Alfie, what's going on?" You know, and you'll see that my eyes can see you, so we can have a conversation without having to take it off. There's also with the reality dial that you mentioned, turning it on. If you go into like super immersive mode, then that eyes won't show. You know, it will show that a person is to be left alone. They're busy. But what do you think of Eyesight? Like this brand new idea when it comes to VR to try to make it less about taking it off and more about just people wearing it day to day. Because you could like wake up, you could put it on, and you could just go your day. You know, it sounds really weird, but I just imagine like seeing like in 5 years everyone on the tube is just wearing a VR headset like they are on their phones right now, maybe. And then if they want to have a conversation with somebody, they both look at each other. They've both got the headset on, but they both can see their fake eyes and they're having a conversation. Like, do you think Eyesight could become a thing, or is it a gimmick? Nick, what's your initial impressions of Eyesight?
Well, I'm the person that takes his sunglasses off when I talk to people, so I don't think it really appeals to me. I kind of like the idea of seeing the whites of someone's eyes, shall we say, and I think that's sort of the point that appeals to me. As a person that needs glasses for reading as well, I always take my glasses off when I'm talking to someone. So maybe that's just an old habit that I've got to get over.
Maybe,
yeah.
I can't see without my glasses. I'm done. Yeah. What about your take, Graham, on Eyesight?
Yeah, I think, you know, you made us all laugh there with that vision of the future of everyone on the tube. But the more I think about that, I could see it, because you're right. Everyone does sit there on their phone. I think having used VR headsets, it's very like disconcerting if someone goes, "Hey, Graham," and you're like, "Well, I was lost in my own world." So I think I've always considered the feature of the person using the headset, like that fading into view sounds great. I've not really considered it of like not needing to take your headset off. I think I'd find that very odd, talking to some a camera version of eyes rather than the person themselves. But
maybe people will just get used to it, because like, you know, we're saying, you know, maybe not for us, but you know, if people are growing up with this and it becomes the norm, then maybe that's you know, something that just happens. And when enough people are doing it, it's like with the AirPods. Like when they came out, it looked like a bathroom product, like a thing that you floss your ears with or something, right? and you the Q-tips, and people like laughed at them at first, and now it's normal to see somebody walking down the street talking to themselves with their AirPods in. So if enough people do it, then it just becomes the norm, and that might be what happens with people with the Vision Pro and you know, later versions. What about the price? Like I say, I do think this is going to come down significantly, and I think Apple have done this really strategically. They made it a really high price, so everybody wants it, and then when it drops, it's like, oh, it's here, and I can buy it now, you know. But what do you think of like the $3,500? Like, I know most people aren't going to buy it; it's more for developers. But what do you think about the $3,500? And what do you think about like the $1,500, $2,000 that it's probably going to be, you know, in a year from now, compared to Meta's? I mean, it's like $300-$400 a pounds like version. You know, what do you think of that side of the coin, Nick?
Well, we know that Apple always produce quality products, and I think that's the point. And I think it's a really good. It's anything which is new is going to be expensive because it's being into the marketplace and it's adopted. And as you've highlighted, they're only going to make a few 100,000 of them. And I think one of the reasons behind that, because I was looking at the dev tools when I went down further onto the screen, I was looking at the dev tools that they've created for it.
Yeah.
And I think they need to get some adoption of that first and some apps that are going to work with it before they're actually in a situation where it gets general use. That said, the minute the price starts dropping, people get interested. It's no different to when the watch came around. It's no different when the iPhone was created. And even if you think about the original cost of the iPod, these were all very high cost things, and that they eventually whittled the cost down and got the manufacturing costs down as they improved the product.
A bit cheaper versions, like the iPod then became like the Nano, then you had like the little clip-on one.
Absolutely,
well.
yeah.
iPhone, you got like the SE or something they call it, like the cheapest one.
It's interesting, because that was what went through my mind, that I think they'll split it into two brands. There'll be a lower cost version and there'll be a high version.
Yeah, the Apple Vision Pro. I mean,
exactly, yeah. Yeah, I think that's where they're
maybe even an Apple Vision SE. I mean, they'll probably do different variations of it. And, you know, in the same way now that we have, you know, there was iPhone and then there's Android, but it's like a million different versions. You know, there's Samsung, you know, Google, everyone else has got a phone. You know, even Microsoft tried it at some point. Amazon tried the Fire phone or something at some point.
Yeah.
I think with VR headsets, I mean, right now it's Oculus and there's like the Pico or something, and then there's a few like really expensive ones. But when Apple gets in the game, I you know, everybody will start coming out with their version of it. Meta unfortunately had to pay the price in terms of like the initial investment to get it going. And when I say pay the price, they spent more money. I believe I'm right in saying this. They spent more money on building out like the infrastructure of VR than it spent to get man to the moon. It's a single biggest capital expenditure ever in history, which would make sense if they can pull it off. Because then if they can own the universe, like the metaverse, what people will live in, then you know they are, you know, the digital god. I mean, they've won, but you know, maybe it will be worth the investment. It's just a shame, not a shame, but it's weird to see like Mark put all that money in, and then like Apple just come around and go, hey, you know, thanks for that, and we're gonna take market share now.
I think there's a big question mark about the metaverse.
Yeah,
I think that's, to me, look, when this is where I came in on the conversation where I talked about the fact that they obviously changed their name to Meta, and the amount of money they've sunk into this is astronomical. And they must be getting a lot of pressure from their shareholders about the rate of return and not getting the rate of return they want to. It's really interesting that Meta executives now talk more about AI than they do about Meta. And I don't think they use the term metaverse anymore either.
You know, they're skating to where the puck is going. Right?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Well, what's your take on the price, Graham? And you know, what's your take on if people will buy it at $1,500 compared to a couple of £100 for Meta?
Yeah, I still think the price point's going to be too much for most people. Perhaps an angle that might come out is when we consider the phone. You know, phones are still, you know, that sort of £1,000 plus sort of price point, but no one thinks of phones being that priced. We pay £20-30 a month, and we spread out that cost. So that might be a model that comes in and brings these devices more into everyone's sort of ownership.
Yeah. We mentioned the phone. Okay, so I guess what Apple are trying to do long term is replace the phone. I mean, ultimately, that's what people want with AR, VR, XR, whatever are. They're trying to take the iPhone and put it on your head. Okay, do you think the Vision is a successor to the iPhone? If you had to look forward 10 years from now, do you think people will be using this headset, version 7 of this headset, more than they're using their iPhone? Or do you think VR, AR, whatever, will not replace a smartphone? What's your take?
I think it'd be the set of glasses we talked about earlier. I think 10
Do you think
years
it will replace the phone? As like
I think it. Yeah, I think it will.
Okay.
I think the minute you can do, if you look, obviously it gives you it fully works with the Mac, so it gives you your screen.
Yeah.
It gives you all your apps. It's just a natural progression to get to that.
Yeah.
That holy grail, as we talked about earlier with the glasses, and I think that will be where it is.
Yeah, it gets smaller and smaller. I mean, tech started as a computer would take up like a university, a huge room, and then it went to, the everybody will have a PC on their desk. That was whole Bill Gates' whole thing, and then it went to, a phone and a watch and eyes.
I'm sure I read recently. I don't know if you remember back. This is many years ago that IBM developed a called Big Blue, a chess computer.
Yeah, that could beat humans at chess.
Yeah, and it beat the world champion at the time. I think Gary Kasparov. Yeah. I read somewhere that the latest Apple iPhone's got more computing power than that IBM machine, and that is only. And when I went back and looked at it, it was about 30 years ago, and I thought that just gives you an idea of how much we've come on.
Well, your iPhone is probably more powerful than the rockets that went to the moon.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and then, with the way that AI works and how it learns from itself, will mean that we'll have, tiny little chips that are more powerful than that know more than every human on the planet combined. Because, if a human needs to learn something, they learn it, but the person sitting next to them doesn't know it. The way that AI works is once AI learns something, that it's all connected, so it's all learnt it. So it can learn more in a second than we can learn in a decade.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, well, look, Vision Pro, main topic for today, but interesting to see if it will succeed, if it will flop. I'm excited to see what happens either way. It's been a long time coming. I've been talking about Apple releasing a headset for over a year now on this podcast. I probably mentioned it like 50 times. So to actually see it, I watched the whole thing live. I had popcorn, I had snacks, I had drinks, and it was just great. And I had my tiny baby crying the whole time and ruined the whole experience. But yeah, it was wild to see, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next year ahead for this space. Hey, really quick video just to give you a free subscription to Coder magazine. Coder is the #1 publication for all the latest tech news, expert insights, and exclusive industry interviews. With Coder, you get the inside scoop on what's happening with Elon Musk, with Bill Gates, with Jeff Bezos, with Mark Zuckerberg, and so much more. So if you work in the technology industry, then I'd highly recommend that you give Coder a read today. Just scan the QR code on the screen for free access now, or go to welovealpha.com/magazine to get your free subscription today. Okay, so we mentioned AI a bunch there, so let's talk about a few other topics in the final half an hour. So Rishi Sunak, actually saw Rishi about a week or two ago at London Tech Week. He was speaking, and I was in a room afterwards speaking to some tech leaders for the podcast, and then Rishi just wanders in. It was a bit of a surreal experience, to be honest. But he was on Harry Stebbings' 20VC podcast recently, which is an amazing podcast. If people listening haven't watched 20VC, Harry is an amazing interviewer, and he interviewed Rishi, and they were talking about how, amongst other things, that Rishi's planning to try and make the UK the world leader in artificial intelligence. So he has launched a £100 million AI task force. A couple of days later after that announcement, Ian Hogarth, the entrepreneur who a lot of people know in the UK, he has taken the role as chairman of that task force. And I guess the goal is to invest in government projects that help with the regulation and the safety around AI. It's a bit unclear if it will be that much like involved in the private sector, with, like funding companies and subsidising. But I imagine there'll be an element of a bit of everything with £100 million. I mean, that's a lot of cash. But Rishi's trying to make the UK the world leader in AI. It'll be interesting to see if like he can pull that off, because when you've got the Valley, when you've got China, all going crazy about this, it'll be interesting to see if our island nation can pull it off. I mean, we have done some amazing things before, but this is obviously quite an audacious goal. But yeah, look, if Ian is listening, it'd be good to get him on the podcast at some point to talk about, I guess, what his plans are going to be as chair. So open invite, Ian, if you're listening to this. But what are your impressions, chaps, of I guess Rishi's announcement? Not from a political perspective. I don't care what your beliefs are. Obviously you were hanging out with Keir Starmer yesterday, Nick. So why don't you kick it off? What's your point of view on Ian's appointment and this news?
He's the guy that did Songkick, isn't he?
Yeah. It's like some music application or something.
Yeah. I guess my thoughts on this are, it's not only is it with us, it's with the American government as well. It's a little bit too late. And I think they should have been in a lot earlier. And I think they've had enough warning signs that they should have done something about this. I looked at the 100 million and I had a slightly different view. I thought to myself, when you see the money that ChatGPT burns, I think every day, I think, is it something like £700,000 it costs for the machines?
I don't know what the operating costs are, but I mean, Microsoft put in 10 billion. And that's a company, not a government.
So 100 million isn't going to go very far.
No.
What I've read in between, and I think I quite like this, is the fact that he's looking at it from a point of view of health and education. And I think health is a great area for ChatGPT to explore, or sorry, OpenAI to explore, because I think that really is something which everybody would benefit from, and I think that's a fantastic idea. The thing that struck me though was that when I read through the statement and read through everything about this, that what they were planning to do, there was no mention of anything to do with the dark arts. And I've made a massive assumption, and I've got my fingers crossed that the people at GCHQ in Cheltenham are dealing with that separately, and it isn't coming out of that 100 million.
When you said dark arts, what do you mean exactly?
Well, nefarious activity.
Okay, like deep fakes and
the
AI hacking.
The dark web.
Sure. Okay.
So going into that area, there didn't seem to be any mention of that. It was all about shiny, happy people, and I think that we need to be a little bit careful as well to make sure that we're also thinking about where it's being used badly or incorrectly. Yeah. And I'm just, there was no mention of that. And I don't expect him to, because this is all about good news.
Yeah, it's a PR press.
It's a PR, but my fingers are very much crossed that Cheltenham GCHQ have got their hands all over.
Yeah, I mean, we hope so, right? I mean, AI it's a tool. It can create amazing, projects and applications, but it also could destroy the world. So, it's important to get that balance right. What's your take, Graham, on, I guess, Rishi's announcement?
Yeah, I guess similar to Nick there, the 100 million, a mere drop in the ocean of what would really be needed to make a difference. But I think it's good that we're talking about it, and we've perhaps opened the door and put it on the agenda a little bit. So it is really important, I think, globally, that we get to grips with AI and consider the benefits, but also the drawbacks. I think as much as governments try and control this, I think it's got a life of its own, and I think the genie's out the bottle in some ways. So it'd be interesting to see sort of where things go. I don't think the announcement will make too much of a difference for us here.
I think it's a government thing, government-led thing for government type thing. I think private enterprise is going to be left to its own resources and do what it has to do. And if you think about it, private enterprise is well ahead of the game in this area anyway. The government are catching up. And it's not just, this isn't just the UK government, this is also the American government as well. It's all governments. So everybody's trying to catch up. And I think if you're looking at it, that's to say, I think, the health is for me, is the big area where I think we can all benefit. Yeah. I think that's a real plus. But, like I say, we talk about cybercrime at the moment. Crikey, this is going to blow cybercrime out the water, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, you'll be able to create AI applications, give them a set of instructions to do, like, just for example, not giving anyone ideas here, right? This is not me saying this, but I was thinking about this the other day. You could create something that would go and create fake versions of banking websites automatically, using generative AI, then create fake email addresses that look like they come from the banks, and then use social media platforms to see who's talking about, complaining about their bank that they're banking with, find their email addresses by scraping tools, send them a fake phishing email from saying, hey, you got to log into your account. They then go to that fake page, they log in and type their details, and then you got their banking details, right? And it just automatically redirects to the banking website. And you could do that on scale without any humans being involved, just by a little bit of code, if it isn't already being done already. Or if that hits millions and millions of people, it only takes a couple of people to get fooled by that to ruin lives. So the genie is out of the bottle, and I hope that we do get the dark arts in check. But I've got like a list at home that I've been thinking of, probably like 10, 15 different ways that you could use AI to to destroy the world.
I try not to think about it because
I'm thinking more from a security perspective. But
I get into a trough of despondency when I think about things like that. I try and remain very optimistic about it, and that's the sort of angle. But I do know what you mean. If you start thinking about it, doesn't take too much. It's not a great leap of faith to realise where it can go.
You could do what I'm describing now. You don't need that. It's not like a future thing that could happen today.
I'm sure someone's writing the code as they speak.
Yeah.
Or probably with the help of Copilot.
Yeah, maybe I should edit that out, but I'm not liable in any way. Okay, next one is a little bit more lighthearted. This is Cafe X. This is really, really cool. So this is a robotic coffee bar. So there's working versions of this in San Francisco and Dubai. It's backed by top VCs like David Sachs, Chamath and JCal, who are on the All-In pod. They're great. It's not terrible coffee as well, because it's not like from those like vending machines where you press a button, because the robot is doing it. It's like a human doing it, so it's good quality. And obviously it has the potential to completely disrupt the global barista market. Starbucks, Cafe Nero, etc., could be in serious trouble. What are your thoughts on Cafe X, Graham?
Yeah, I love the idea. I think perhaps being a bit of a geek, I don't always enjoy speaking to people. I don't know, maybe I took the don't talk to strangers too seriously as a child, and that's carried on.
Sure.
So interacting with a machine that gives me a great drink, fantastic. I'm not a coffee drinker, so I don't know whether I could comment on the quality of that. So,
but if you probably get tea or like some iced chas, from it.
Yeah, but I love the idea of 24/7 operate with a machine. I really enjoy ordering off an app rather than ringing someone, interacting with something like that in an airport down the street. I'd definitely use that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. This was sent to me on Twitter. If people enjoy the show and want to send me products to mention and talk about if they are visually appealing and cool and futuristic, then tweet me. My handle's on the screen at the moment. If the Cafe X founders are listening to this as well, we'd be happy to have you on to talk about this, because this is a pretty cool innovation. What's your take, Nick, on Cafe X?
Well, I remember when I did my computer science degree, getting a robotic arm to move and how much code that took. Yeah. So I'm dreading to think what it takes to make a cup of coffee. The thing that bothered me the most was when it had the coffee in its hand, or the robotic hand, and it was shaking it, and I thought it's going to come out in a minute and it's going to spill.
It's probably coded like to perfectly keep you on edge and suspense. You're watching it just about to come out, but it never does.
Listen, I'm a developer. I was just happy to get it working. Don't worry, I wasn't going to get that far. I've got really mixed views about this, because I worked in Italy for 5 years, and I could never see this catching on in Italy.
No,
because the whole coffee culture would not allow this. The whole point of going in there and talking about moaning about the government, moaning about the football, moaning about whatever's going on is part of that ritual, and they go in at 11 o'clock.
It's a small country, though, compared to the rest of the world.
It absolutely is, but also at the back of my mind, I just thought to myself, is this not really just a glorified vending machine?
Yeah.
And that kind of was at the back of my mind as well. And I just thought, all of a sudden, you can see people taking shortcuts with it, and it not being the premium quality product that maybe it should be. I guess I would always prefer. I guess what we're trying to do is, if this comes in, then having a barista is going to be a premium product. This will very quickly go to the middle layer, and that people will be looking for human interaction to get something which is a little bit more personal.
I mean, from the emotional perspective, yes. But what if the robot barista can make coffee better than a human? Because it doesn't make mistakes, it doesn't show up late, it doesn't take annual leave, it doesn't get sick. It's just 24/7. Just here's your latte, here's your flat white, here's your iced mocha. Here's your strawberry and cream frappuccino, whatever you order. I don't know what you order.
Do you think it would react to can you make mine a bit stronger? Can we have some extra milk in that?
I don't know if it's like, I think it's probably like a screen, right? You probably
see,
probably.
now you're into the world of McDonald's, you see, because you've got those great big touch. I think it would be like that, but I mean, I don't know.
What about the jobs? Let's get your perspective on that, because it's good. If this takes off, right? You've got millions and millions of baristas at Starbucks that are screwed.
This is the whole thing. I think when we spoke before, we talked about automated cars.
Yeah, the self-driving cars.
Self-driving cars, and I just said, it's the same. It's the same issue for me. There's a lot of people in that area that are doing this for work, and there's a lot of families that are relying on it. And that's the area that worries me, the social economic aspect. What are you going to do with these people? Because if they're not going to be baristas, then they're going to have to be paid for by the government. And then what do we do with that? We put taxes up to pay for these people. People need to be employed.
Yeah, well, they need to have meaning, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Purpose in their life. And the counter argument could be, yes, it replaces jobs for baristas, but it also creates jobs for developers, and then they'll be building the machines. But with AI, maybe developers will be replaced.
But how many developers did that create? Say it took a team of 100 people.
Yeah.
You're putting out a lot more than 100 baristas out of work with something like that.
Correct.
I think there's a short-term impact there, but I think as you look to the longer term, like maybe we don't need to train more baristas. Maybe they can move into different things. I mean, presumably, we're not still training chimney sweeps, so jobs do move on, new roles come around.
But normally, Graham, it's a generational thing.
It is, yeah.
So you've got a whole generation of people.
Not anymore. No.
You don't think so?
No, well, I mean, the way that AI and robotics are moving, it's now every year there's going to be disruptions like this. I don't think it's going to be. Throughout history, it's always been about generations. But I'm quick now.
So I'm going to take you up on that, if you don't mind.
Cage fight.
No. I'll tell you why I think slightly differently. I think because it's a generational thing. I think what we forget is that we're quite privileged in what we do and what we're able to what we've done. Other people aren't maybe as privileged as what we are, and aren't as able to adapt to circumstances. Look, I think all three of us here, from the discussions we've had today, have got curious minds. We're really interested in what we do and how we do it and what's going on, and we've all, looked at these subjects and all have different perspectives on it, and that's the beauty of it. There's a lot of people that don't really. It isn't their bag. It isn't what they're into, and it's those people that you need to care about, and those people that you sometimes think about as well.
Yeah,
and that's why my concern comes from.
Okay,
and I think that's why I'm saying it's a generational thing. I think for the top 25% intellectually in the country, I think they move and they adapt because they're curious and they want to adapt things and they want to move. They want to move on to new things. I think there's a lot of people that are just happy with their lot and don't want to continually learn. Just want to do what they do.
Yeah, it's like the whole thing. Like, yes, truck drivers will be replaced, and you say, "Hey, learn to code." But I mean, should they be learning to code? Is that the right job for them? I mean,
do they want to? Well,
exactly. Do they want to code? Yeah,
and of course, we
can't force people to.
And then you get Copilot come along, and of course, you don't need
No, you become a prompt engineer instead.
It's exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, these are the sorts of things that people need to think about. And going back to our Rishi discussion, and this is the sort of thing that I'd like the government to sort of, as part, maybe $1 million of that 100 million could be look into that sort of and have a view as to what the long-term workplace looks like. Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of jobs still, the next topic rather, is all about how AI might be interviewing humans for jobs soon. So there was a study conducted recently by Resume Builder, which said that 40% of corporate recruiters will use AI to conduct job interviews by 2024, next year. And 15% of recruiters will rely entirely on artificial intelligence for all hiring decisions from start to finish, from writing the advert to seeing the CVs to making an offer and closing a candidate, I presume by voice AI, having a conversation with like a chatbot or something. So let me say that again. So AI will, this is a prediction by Resume Builder based on a survey they've done with large amounts of data. 40% of corporate recruiters will use AI to conduct job interviews by 2024, and 15% will rely entirely on AI tools from all hiring decisions from start to finish. I mean, I own a recruitment company, so I'm mixed views. I think by next year, I don't know. That seems very, 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 very quick. I'm using AI to help write job adverts, to help candidates craft resumes. Not really doing anything with interviews for AI, but I know that there are tools to, like, chatbots to, like, initial screenings, like, hey, what's your salary? Hey, what location? Simple questions that you could use a chatbot to do. But when it comes to, like, building relationships, seeing if they're the right culture fit, the right team fit, asking, like, challenging questions and getting there, I want to be involved in that conversation personally. I don't want to trust AI completely. But who knows? Maybe I'm behind the 8 ball. Maybe I'm wrong on this one. What are your thoughts on, will AI interview you for a job in the future? Graham, what's your take?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a role for AI in the process. Would I go as far as saying it would take over? I can't really see that, certainly not within a year.
Sure.
Perhaps if you think about the wider job market, I think we're probably considering it from a software development technology type recruitment process. Maybe there are roles where AI would do a reasonable job, and maybe the hiring decision isn't that important. I think some of the problems we have, we get so many candidates coming in. How do you get through that list effectively? I think AI could help in that. There's a lot of talk around unconscious bias.
Yeah.
Now, there's two sides to that from an AI point of view. What bias is in the AI? We don't know what decisions and how it's making the decisions. So, is that actually going to make the problem worse, or is it a way of helping us?
Yeah, maybe you're right in terms of, like, I'm not singling out any particular job here, but if it was like, I don't know, like an admin type role,
Mm-hmm.
if you have 100 applications, AI could then do the chatbot to speak to them. Yep. If you had like a voice version of that, so it sounds like you're speaking to a human, but you're just having a conversation with somebody, and it's measuring the accuracy of their communication, and then it gets all the key data, and then it gives them like a little test to do, like sorting out emails and typing, seeing what they're how fast they can type, if there's any mistakes. And then it would, maybe the human would get involved for the final stage, just sanity check the machine. But maybe after you've sanity checked it 10 times and it's been right every single time, maybe it just works and they get hired, right? Which is a little bit scary for me. Not gonna lie. Yeah, maybe, but I'm still a bit skeptical. What's your take, Nick, on the story?
Well, the first thing, and this is a humorous part, was I wonder whether they'd phone me back.
Well, a recruiter won't.
Yeah. Or no, so it's if it's learning, then it will know not to phone me back after I've applied. I'm jesting. I like when I'm building a team, I like to look for the right culture. So I'm not after the top technical people. I'm after, because very often the top technical people won't fit into the team. I'm actually after the right people. I like to meet people and ask them questions and understand where they're coming from and whether they're going to fit and that they're a good fit with everybody else within the team. That's what works for me, and I'm sure eventually AI will overcome that issue, but I can't see it in the near future. And I think that's the important part for me. And I think that, even for something as an admin assistant, you still want to make sure you don't want someone that's going to be difficult and awkward. You want someone that's going to work in your team and be a really good fit, or someone that's keen to learn, or someone. There's different things that you look for different roles, and I think that's the thing that I struggle with as to how it would do it, or how I would gauge just from AI doing all this. Maybe first part screening, as you said. Yeah. I think that's a good point.
Yeah, I think it will replace large parts of the recruitment cycle, but the one thing that I think it will struggle to replace is the ability to sell an opportunity to somebody that's maybe not looking for a role. Because when we hire software developers for companies, like 90% of the time they are not on the market, but they are in the market. They're not actively looking for a job. They may, if we're working with Monzo, and we know what they're looking for, we would go to Starling and go, hey, try and persuade people to come over because it's their competition, and talk about the benefits, talk about why it's a great place to work, et cetera, et cetera. AI, I think, would struggle to call people to convince them, because if you knew you were talking to a chatbot, I think most humans would just put the phone down. They're like, I don't want to speak to some robot. Like, what is this? I think most people would just like to speak to people, but I don't know. Maybe I'm completely wrong on this. Only time can tell.
I think you're spot on. I think there's a human element to selling that job. I know that when I've done it in the past, when I've recruited in the past, and the recruiter's got it so far, and it needs me to get it over the line. Yeah. And and you say, well, let's go for dinner. Let's go and and especially in the market that we had over the last 2 years, where people were getting multiple offers. Yeah. It's important to build that relationship with them, take them to dinner, get them talking to them, show them that you care and that you're interested. Yeah. And I think that's what will get you. That's what will be the differentiator.
Yeah, I don't want to go to dinner with ChatGPT. Like, you want to do it with a human, right?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, and sometimes it's opening up more of your business as well. So it's not just the recruiter or the manager. Like, come and meet the rest of the team.
Absolutely.
And feel part of it.
Yeah, Graham, this is my point about culture. Yeah. This is the whole point. I absolutely agree with you that it's about making sure that you get a good cultural fit within that individual. Okay,
last topic. For those that have stayed to the end, as promised, we've got some crazy AI tech here. I've actually talked about Symphasia, this platform, before on the show. If Stefan or Victor, we've spoken before in the past, the founders would like to come on, there is an open invite. But this is text-to-speech software. For those watching on video, there's a quick clip on the screen showing a demo. I can't play audio just because I don't want to get copyright striked, but this is essentially what you see. So you type in what you like, and an AI-generated avatar will read it out in 120 different languages. There's almost 150 different avatars that you can pick from. Use it for training material, marketing videos, voiceovers. Who knows? Maybe even recruitment. Maybe this is the magic bullet to the problem. But it looks, pretty real. I mean, it's definitely a bit stiff. Like, it's not like a human on like a Zoom call having a conversation. And the voice it's pretty good. I mean, like, you can pick different languages, but certainly from the demos that I've seen, it's not as fluent as a human speaking, with the ums and the pauses and the ahs. It's like a perfect polished person, which is probably what you want if you're watching a training video. Like, you join a company and you got to watch those like boring introduction videos showing you how to use the CRM and the database, all the different systems and everything, which is probably designed for that. But I don't think it's quite the same as speaking to a human yet. I mean, it's going to get better and better, and maybe they'll add in some of those human errors, which I think is quite important with AI. Like with GPT, for example, when it gives you the answer, it comes out like this. It doesn't just give you the answer because it feels like a human speaking to you. I'm working with a chatbot company at the moment, helping grow their engineering team. And one thing they've recently added is when it's about to text you something, it comes up with the dots on the screen, like you're getting a text message. When they have the answer ready, it just feels more human. So I'm sure they can add stuff like that into it to make the product worse, but then also make it better at the same time, if you know what I'm saying. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Symphasia and that platform? Nick, what's your take?
I loved it. I thought it was really good. I had a good look at it, and I looked at I had looked on the website as well. I was really impressed by what it was doing. Yeah, I thought it was very good. I was thinking about things like training videos, a number of areas where it would be excellent. I thought it was very polished. It made me laugh where it had different accents as well. Yeah. So it was really there's a lot of thought gone into that, an awful lot of work. And I did notice that you could pause the script. There were little bits of syntax that you could use in. It's not just if you cut and paste from what you've written, and there were ways of putting pauses in there with the syntax.
Okay, so they are adding some of the features that I've talked about. Okay,
yeah. Okay. And I thought it was, so I looked at it and I went away and I went, goodness, that is really good. Yeah. I thought it was really, really good, and I was quite impressed.
So they've just raised a Series C round. I think NVIDIA, obviously the AI GPU, they are a big investor. And I think they're officially a unicorn now because they've raised it to a point where they're like $1 billion valuation. So you can call them in the unicorn club. So congrats, boys, on that. What's your take, Graham, on Symphasia?
Yeah, I was impressed as well. I think for me, I expected to find the video a bit janky, but actually was really smooth. And actually, the avatar and the video side was really quite natural. It was the voice that wasn't quite there for me. It was a little bit still computer generated, but perfectly passable. You could definitely use that and make great use. Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't play the voice on this just because I didn't want to get striked. But if people were listening and want to search Symphasia, it's worth checking out. I'm not affiliated in any way. One thing that did come to mind is this could replace jobs for like news readers and TV presenters. I did another segment on the pod a few episodes back on this very subject, where there was a company in, I think it was a TV station in Kuwait, who have been using a AI generated something like this called Fedha, who has replaced a news anchor at their broadcasting station. I'm not sure if it's Symphasia or a competitor, but they were basically reading out the headlines, because some news, like journalism, you kind of need an opinion. Like if you've got like a Tucker Carlson or someone, you need like their perspective, their take on it. But if it's just like, hey, here's the breaking headlines for today, and it's just reading it out like a boring Sky TV, BBC presenter or something like legacy media, like you could replace that with this, type in what the headlines are, or just use GPT to scour the net and gather them, and then just read it out on the screen, and obviously play B-roll on top showing the clips. So this could replace like news readers, like TV presenters and that sort of thing. Do you see that as a reality? Am I thinking too far ahead? What's your take, Nick, on that side of the coin?
I think with news readers, I think that it's a spontaneity that they could provide when something happens. I mean, like yesterday we saw when we found out about the sub imploding on itself with the Titanic, and that was all very quick, and it was put up on the news quite quickly. So that aspect of it, I haven't really got my head round. I guess what I was looking at it for was more, if you want to get a presentation out there, or if you've got a large team of people, then it's a great tool to be able to do that. But then again, at the same time, I'm also the type of person that would rather, when you're doing something like an all hands, speak myself and take it on board. But, it would be a good way of getting company messages across. But then again, that's what the video's there for. So, I loved the technology. I thought the technology was really good, and I thought it was much better than I was expecting. Yeah.
What's your take, Graham?
Yeah, I think perhaps similar to some of the other conversations we had around like job replacement. I think, as you mentioned, the big personalities in news reading and broadcasting, I think they become a premium, and I don't see this replacing that. But for other applications, that sort of budget, just get the news out there. Yeah, maybe I could see that happening. I think we'll have to wait and see on that.
I mean, it'll probably be a hybrid one. It won't completely replace them, but all the bad ones will be replaced. The ones that are just reading from a script, which is probably most of them. One thing that this tech does terrify me a little bit is around deepfakes, because you could very easily, I think you can upload avatars. I have done hundreds of hours of podcasts, so you can upload a thing of me and make me say anything, and I don't really care that much, because if it's from my profile, it's me. But that could obviously just be an easy way of escaping it. Hey, I didn't say that because I didn't tweet that out, so it wasn't me. But yeah, I could see this being used to make politicians say anything, to make your political or business rivals talk badly about products, about people, about controversial topics. I could see it being used heavily in politics and cyber warfare and that sort of thing, and making millions of fake social media accounts all posting something simultaneously to try and thread a false narrative into a subject. What were your takes on the deep fake side of the coin? What do you think, Graham?
Yeah, I think if we consider technology over the ages, there's always been things that come along, and there's always a threat there and an opportunity to use it for nefarious gains. And I think each time we come up with ways of dealing with that. I don't know what the answers are in this case, but I guess I believe in the positivity, and we'll find a way of handling that.
Okay, so you're optimistic.
Yeah.
You think it'll happen, but you're optimistic about the outcome.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to happen. I think there's no question about that. The technology's there. It will get used, and people will try and abuse it as well.
Yeah.
But I think we'll find ways of dealing with that.
Yeah, I mean, the obvious way for me would just be like a watermark or a stamp on it, or even just obviously having like a verified tick, like Elon suggested, like you pay for that. Because I don't know if you'd pay to, a couple of pounds a month to spread false information. If you're doing it on scale, it'd be quite expensive projects. I mean, you still could do it, but the deep fakes would just be making Mr. Musk even richer and richer. Maybe he's onto something. What do you think, Nick, on the deep fake side?
Yeah, it's a worry, isn't it? It's certainly something that it's certainly food for thought.
It could happen like now. It's not like some futuristic thing that could happen now.
Yeah,
similar to what I was saying about
absolutely.
AI emails.
Yeah, listen, absolutely. It's one of those things. I'm with Graham on this. I'm going to have to look at this from a very optimistic perspective and say that it's going to be used for the right reason. And I've just probably shot myself in the foot by saying that.
Yeah, I don't know if it will be. I'm sure Symphasia have some way of banning people if they're using it and they catch on to it, and maybe they'll have some way of tracking what goes out before it goes out. But I don't know. This seems like an amazing tool which has the power for so much good, but also the power for so much destruction. But yeah.
Well, we know the social media companies aren't very good at tracking these people, are they?
No, not really. No. I mean, just recently. Instagram have finally clamped down on nefarious activities, which have been going on for a long time, which they just kind of, I don't want to say they turned a blind eye to it, but it hasn't been a priority of theirs. Anyway, Stefan, Victor, if you're listening, would love to get your side of the story on why this won't lead to the end of the world. We'll see what you say. Cool. All right. Thanks for coming on, chaps. Good to get your perspectives into what's happening in the world of tech. Apple Vision Pro, AI, robotics. What else? Talked about a lot today, haven't we? Rishi. Everything. Okay, cool. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. See you all next time. Hey, thanks for watching this podcast. Make sure that you like, subscribe, follow, comment, etc., and I'll see you in the next episode.